what you think. Look,
Hey guys, it's Godbars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 164th episode of my series where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it has, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. So off the bat, I already know I'm gonna get an amount of comments saying that I should have covered CMW's Music to Drive By before tackling MC8's first solo album here. But while I'll probably try to cop that classic LP in the next month or so, for now I'm going to discuss a different Compton's Most Wanted affiliated project, We Come Strapped by California hip-hop veteran MC8. If you're a younger or more relatively recent hip-hop fan, you may know this dude for his pretty iconic guest appearance on Kendrick Lamar's seminal 2012 Good Kid Mad City. Or perhaps you just know the Compton's Most Wanted name through their famous beef with fellow godfather of West Coast gangsta rap DJ Quick. Well, CMW had a number of associates over the years like Boom Bam, Lil Hawk, Bird, NOTR, DJ Mike T, DJ Slip, and the Unknown DJ. The two original founding members of this legendary Compton crew were rappers MC8 and The Chill, with the former of the two arguably becoming the group's most well-known member, partially due to his major role in the timeless flick Menace to Society, which most people would probably consider a top 5 movie when it comes to hood films, for lack of a better term. I mean, Menace is in that top-tier group of the most iconic movies in a subgenre that was packed with quality and impactful material. Just a few of my personal favorites being Boys in the Hood, New Jack City, South Central, Juice, Above the Rim, Do the Right Thing, Set It Off, and of course Friday, just to name a handful. Many of those movies had rappers turned actors in them, some of which even took leading roles and made pretty serious names for themselves in a completely different industry from the one they started in, like Ice Cube or Tupac. But it's important to remember those films didn't just take off because they had some big rapper name attached, because for every one great performance by a rapper on the big screen, there's 3 more performances that are a bit more lackluster by people who understandably aren't as comfortable in the medium of cinema as they are on the mic. I think a good example of this is Belly, which is a fun movie that I remember thinking was super cool when I saw it with my friends as like a high 15-year-old, but then you get a bit older and go back, and for me at least, it was pretty apparent that neither Nas or DMX really had the acting chops necessary to carry a movie like that, at least not to the extent some of their contemporaries could. And that isn't designed as an insult to either of those all-time greats, because obviously being an actor was never either of their first or even second priority. I doubt it even cranked the top 10. But there is an interesting phenomenon where even when you remove the big dogs like Ice-T or LL Cool J, there's still a pretty impressive amount of solid, extremely well-acted movie or television characters that are portrayed by dudes who got their start as rappers, a good amount of which never lost that part of their background either, even when they were venturing into the more Hollywood side. There's honestly too many to even count. For example, classic roles like Cameron in Paid in Full, Snoop Dogg in Baby Boy, Method Man in The Wire, or Fredro Starr and Sticky Fingers in Strapped. The list goes on and on. But I brought this up in this video because MC8 not only gives us one of the coolest and most effortlessly realistic character portrayals in this style of cinema, he actually has my favorite scene of the entire film Menace to Society, which I assume any viewer of this video has already seen, considering it's such an essential masterpiece. Honestly, while it's an extremely short part that I'm referencing, it actually may be my favorite scene from any movie based around gang violence in the ghetto. It's definitely my favorite scene from any 90s hood film involving murder, which I realize is a bit of a bizarre scenario to choose as a favorite, but if you're familiar and well-versed with this subgenre, you probably know that pretty much every movie in this vein has at least one, if not way more, obligatory murder scenes, and I'd say a good 75% of the time they're drive-bys. This was especially true when it came to films about West Coast gangsta shit, but while Menace to Society undoubtedly features its fair share of shootings from a car, the real climax comes when the two main characters aided by MC8 catch the dudes who almost killed the lead earlier in the movie and killed his cousin in front of him. They pretty much just walk up and spray their former attackers right outside the fast food place they've been loitering, and then one manages to escape momentarily after being shot a couple times. And as he's limping off, trying to desperately avoid getting shot anymore, MC8, who was supposed to just be the driver for this heinous act of retaliation, calmly and casually runs up while saying something to the effect of, "Oh shit, homie, are you okay? You need some help?" And then the second the dude gets up to him and is about to like fall into his arms, MC8 shoots him like 3 times through the stomach with a strap that he'd been hiding behind his back as he feigned concern when he ran up. It's such a minor detail in a movie that has so much going on throughout the entire runtime, but for some reason it just always kills me, probably from a mix of how absurd the situation and method of that murder itself is, but it's mainly the way that MC8 pretends to be a innocent bystander who's just running up to help. It always gets me. And just to be clear, the guy that they took out had already killed innocent people throughout the movie earlier on, wasn't just some innocent guy that they didn't like. Of course, the main characters in that movie aren't exactly saints in their own right, and they're not portrayed to be role models or looked up to, especially O-Dog, but I feel like the struggle and conflicting voices that Kane had to deal with throughout that story are sadly probably all too familiar for MC8 in the area and time he grew up. I referenced the DJ Quick beef with Compton's Most Wanted towards the beginning of this video, but while I'm pretty sure this feud had all but completely died down and fizzled out by the time the turn of the century rolled around, this solo debut from 8 was dropped in 1994, which was pretty much at the height of this back and forth. This ultimately resulted in a song that I feel should be in way more conversations about the all-time great diss tracks, that being Death Wish 3, which was pretty much just CMW pouring gasoline over the already raging fire, and they had very little to no interest in ducking the subsequent smoke that it had caused. On one hand, some may argue this wedge both sides continued to drive into G-Funk and the wider West Coast hip-hop scene was negative and dangerous for the culture, as it may have been representative of a larger issue that was just around the corner. However, on the other side of the aisle, you have to keep in mind that this is music, and it isn't like these guys were naming dead friends on the other side or anything near that personal level of disrespect. I think everyone involved would probably concur that this beef wasn't really even personal in any means, especially when looking back with hindsight. I've even seen MC8 talk about how he made a point to not mention or diss specific hoods or sets that Quick may or may not have had an affiliation with, like Treetop Pyrus. There was a clear level of mutual respect that I think made the hurdle of making peace a million times easier, as it's impossibly harder to plan a peace summit where everyone on one side of the room has released numerous disses mocking dead loved ones on the other side. Musically, We Come Strapped is a little bit slower than some of the other MC8 or CMW projects, which further helped separate them from all the speedy, more rapidly paced rappers who were making a name for themselves in the Bay Area, like E40, The Coup, Sibo, or 187 Fac. Their content and way of life wasn't too different, but this LP has a more slow and steady quality, where MC8 got to display a more restrained and chill side, which if anything just improved the contrast between his usual in-your-face, more menacing gangsta moments, with this more mature and studied MC who was clearly constantly practicing and honing his pen over the years. There's only a few features on here outside of CMW, one of which is Bay Area rap legend Spice One, who does his thing as always, and the other two include Carla Evans and Redman of all people, who actually snapped so hard on his respective guest verse that I wanted to share some of my favorite lines off of it. He kills it right off the bat, coming in with, "Oh my god, I destroy cities like the Blob. Dropping trunks of funk, and I blast a punk from here to Cape Cod. Fuck a job, my organization runs like the mob." The original Joe Pex flex, Redman bitch, you better ask some bod. Prepare to slam it from here to Japan with jams. I'm from the Jersey section, and I keep it real for 94, and I can't march on swap meets. Y'all duck sex, I die sex. And I pack a 9 cat and the cops still don't know where mine at. The production on here is done entirely in-house, with the only names included to my knowledge being DJ Slip, DJ Mike T, and Master Rick Rock. For my 3 favorite tracks to come from this one, I think I would have to go with Death Wish 3, We Come Strapped, and Nothing But the Gangsta. For honorable mentions that didn't quite make the top cut, I still wanted to shout out bangers like the Endolude intro that starts the album off, Take Two With Me, All for the Money, Compton Psycho, Can I Still Kick It, Going Out Like G's, Hard Times, and Compton Bomb. Thank you for watching my 184th video. Next time, we're returning to hip-hop's premier supergroup, and while I've discussed a number of solo projects from main members, this is actually only the second time I've discussed a project from the entire collective. So check for that one, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite songs off this Compton landmark are. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.
Such a thing. Look, I stand in the flame of a feeling we call pain. Father's Day mug, little hand shaped in clay. Carrier planes flew overhead in pockets.